What if the biggest problem in your life is not the world around you, but the thoughts inside your own mind? Think about it for a moment. How many times have you replayed the same conversation in your head? How many nights have you stayed awake, thinking about things that already happened? Or worrying about things that may never happen at all? Your mind keeps analyzing, questioning, imagining, over and over again. This is what we call overthinking. And for many people, it feels like being trapped inside your own thoughts. Your mind refuses to be quiet. It keeps running scenarios. It keeps predicting problems. It keeps asking endless questions. What if I fail? What if I make the wrong decision? What if people judge me? Slowly, these thoughts begin to control how you feel. You become anxious. You hesitate. And sometimes you avoid opportunities. Not because you are incapable, but because your mind simply won't stop thinking. But here is something most people never realize. Overthinking is not always a sign of weakness. In fact, it often happens to people who are deep thinkers, people who observe more, people who analyze more, people who care deeply about their decisions. Their minds are constantly trying to understand everything around them. The problem begins when thinking becomes excessive, when analysis turns into paralysis, when thoughts become so loud that action becomes impossible. Instead of helping you solve problems, your mind starts creating problems that never existed. And suddenly the same intelligence that should help you move forward starts holding you back. But there is something important you need to understand. Overthinking is not permanent. It is simply a mental habit, and like any habit, it can be changed. The first step is awareness, understanding why your mind behaves this way. Because once you understand the psychology behind overthinking, you begin to see your thoughts differently. Instead of being controlled by them, you learn how to observe them. And that is where true mental freedom begins. To truly understand overthinking, we first need to understand the mind behind it. Because not everyone experiences overthinking in the same way. Some people make decisions quickly. They move forward without questioning every possibility. But others have minds that work differently. Their thoughts move deeper. They analyze situations from multiple angles. They imagine outcomes before they happen. They replay events in search of meaning. And while this ability can be a sign of intelligence, it can also become overwhelming. Intelligent minds are naturally curious. They want to understand how things work, why people behave the way they do, why certain outcomes happen. This constant curiosity trains the brain to look for patterns and explanations. But when that curiosity is directed toward every small detail in life, the mind can become overloaded with thoughts. Imagine your brain like a powerful computer. A powerful computer can process huge amounts of information, but if too many programs run at the same time, even the strongest system begins to slow down. This is exactly what happens during overthinking. Your brain starts running too many mental programs at once. You analyze past events. You predict future outcomes. You question your decisions. You imagine what others might think. And slowly, this mental activity creates a loop where the same thoughts repeat again and again. This repetition is what turns normal thinking into overthinking. Another reason intelligent people overthink is because they are highly aware of consequences. They understand that decisions have effects, choices create outcomes, and because they care about making the right choice, they often spend too much time trying to calculate every possible result. They want certainty. They want to avoid mistakes. But life rarely offers perfect certainty. And the more someone searches for the perfect answer, the longer they stay trapped in indecision. Overthinking often disguises itself as productivity. It feels like you are solving problems. It feels like you are preparing for the future. But in reality, many of these thoughts do not lead to solutions. They simply lead to stress. This is where many people begin to lose their confidence. Because when the mind constantly focuses on problems, it slowly starts believing that problems are everywhere. You begin to doubt your abilities. You begin to hesitate before taking action. And hesitation creates a dangerous habit. The habit of waiting for the perfect moment. Waiting for perfect certainty. Waiting for complete confidence. But perfect conditions rarely exist. Action is what creates clarity, not endless thinking. Another interesting aspect of overthinking is the emotional impact it creates. Your thoughts directly influence how you feel. If your mind constantly imagines negative outcomes, your emotions will begin to reflect those thoughts. Fear appears, anxiety grows. Overthinking does something dangerous to the human mind. At first it feels harmless. You believe you are simply thinking carefully. You believe you are preparing yourself. You believe you are avoiding mistakes. But slowly something begins to change. Your mind starts turning every decision into a problem. Simple choices begin to feel complicated. Small risks begin to feel dangerous. And the more your mind analyzes every possibility, the harder it becomes to take action. This is how overthinking slowly destroys confidence. Confidence does not come from thinking. Confidence comes from action. Every time you take a step forward, your brain gathers evidence that you are capable. Every time you try something new, your mind becomes stronger. But when overthinking stops you from acting, that evidence never appears. Instead, the mind begins creating doubts. What if I fail? What if people judge me? What if this decision is wrong? These questions repeat again and again, and with every repetition, hesitation grows stronger. You start waiting for the perfect moment. You tell yourself that you will act when you feel more ready. But readiness rarely comes from waiting. It comes from doing. Overthinking creates a trap where people believe they must feel completely confident before they act. But the truth works in the opposite direction. Action creates confidence, not the other way around. Another problem with overthinking is that it magnifies small problems. Imagine a small mistake. A normal mind might notice it, learn from it, and move on. But an overthinking mind does something different. It replays the mistake repeatedly. It questions every detail. It imagines what others might be thinking. And slowly, a small moment becomes a large emotional burden. This mental habit makes life feel heavier than it actually is. Overthinkers often carry invisible stress that others cannot see. Even when nothing is wrong in the outside world, their mind is constantly searching for problems. This constant analysis can also damage productivity. When your mind is busy thinking about everything, it becomes harder to focus on anything. Tasks take longer to complete. Decisions become exhausting. And the mental energy that should be used for creativity and progress gets lost inside endless thought loops. Ironically, many overthinkers are highly intelligent individuals with great potential. They have ideas, they have creativity, they have deep understanding. But their own thoughts create barriers that stop them from moving forward. Their mind becomes both their greatest strength and their greatest obstacle. But here is the most important realization. Thoughts are not commands. Just because a thought appears in your mind does not mean you must obey it. A thought is simply a mental event. It appears, it passes, and you have the power to decide whether it deserves your attention. Understanding overthinking is important, but the real question is this: how do you stop it? Because when someone is trapped inside their own thoughts, simply telling them to stop thinking does not work. The mind does not respond well to force. The more you try to push thoughts away, the stronger they often become. Instead, overcoming overthinking begins with learning how to manage your attention. Your attention is the most powerful tool your mind has. Whatever you focus on grows stronger. If your attention constantly returns to negative possibilities, your mind will continue producing more of them. But when you learn to guide your attention in healthier directions, your thinking begins to calm down naturally. One powerful method is awareness. Most people are not aware that they are overthinking while it is happening. They become completely absorbed in their thoughts. But when you start noticing, the moment your mind begins repeating the same ideas again and again, you gain control. Instead of becoming lost in the thought, you simply observe it. You recognize it as a mental pattern, and often that awareness alone reduces its power. Another effective method is action. Overthinking grows stronger when you remain inactive. When there is too much time for the mind to wander, it naturally begins creating problems. But when you start taking small actions, your brain shifts from analysis to progress. Even a small step forward can break the mental loop. Action interrupts overthinking. It gives your mind something real to focus on. Movement creates clarity. Many people wait for perfect confidence before acting. But the truth is that confidence grows through action. Each step you take proves to your mind that progress is possible. And with every step, the noise of doubt becomes quieter. Another important technique is learning to simplify decisions. Overthinkers often try to evaluate every possible outcome. They want certainty before making a choice, but life rarely provides perfect information. Instead of searching for the perfect decision, focus on making a good decision and adjusting along the way. Progress matters more than perfection. This mindset removes the pressure that fuels overthinking. Your mind no longer needs to solve every detail before moving forward. It only needs to choose a direction. Overthinking also decreases when people reconnect with the present moment. Much of overthinking happens because the mind travels constantly between the past and the future. You replay past mistakes. You imagine future problems. But when your attention returns to the present moment, those mental loops lose their strength. Simple activities like walking, breathing slowly, or focusing deeply on a task can calm the mind surprisingly quickly. These moments remind your brain that not every thought deserves attention. Many people believe that overthinking is simply a weakness, something that holds them back, something they must completely eliminate. But the truth is more complex than that. Overthinking often comes from a powerful mind, a mind that is curious, a mind that notices details, a mind that naturally analyzes the world around it. These qualities are not problems. In fact, they are often the same qualities that lead to creativity, intelligence, and deep understanding. The challenge is not having a powerful mind. The challenge is learning how to guide that power. Because when overthinking is left uncontrolled, it creates anxiety and hesitation. But when it is managed correctly, it can become one of your greatest strengths. Think about the ability to analyze situations carefully. This ability helps you see patterns others miss. It helps you understand people more deeply. It allows you to recognize risks and opportunities before others notice them. Many great thinkers, scientists, and creators have minds that work this way. They question everything. They explore ideas deeply. They think beyond the surface. But what separates successful thinkers from overwhelmed overthinkers is balance. They know when to think deeply, and they know when to step back and act. They do not allow their thoughts to trap them in endless loops. Instead, they use thinking as a tool for learning, a tool for understanding, but not a tool for fear. One important skill is learning to switch between thinking and doing. Your mind needs both. Thinking helps you prepare. Action helps you grow. Without thinking, decisions become careless. But without action, ideas remain trapped in your mind. Balance is the key. Another powerful shift happens when you begin asking better questions. Overthinking often focuses on negative questions. What if everything goes wrong? What if I fail? What if people judge me? These questions naturally produce anxious answers. But intelligent thinkers learn to guide their mind toward better questions. What can I learn from this situation? What small step can I take right now? What opportunity might exist here? When the mind searches for solutions instead of problems, its energy becomes productive instead of destructive. This small change transforms how you experience your thoughts. Instead of feeling trapped by them, you begin working with them. Your thinking becomes focused and purposeful, and slowly your mind becomes a partner rather than an obstacle. Another helpful practice is writing your thoughts down. When thoughts remain inside the mind, they often feel overwhelming. But once you place them on paper, something interesting happens. They become clearer. You can see them from a distance. You can evaluate them logically instead of emotionally. At the end of the day, overthinking is not really about thinking too much. It is about losing control of your thoughts. Your mind begins to move faster than your ability to guide it. And when that happens, thoughts begin controlling emotions, decisions, and even your confidence. But the moment you learn how your mind works, everything begins to change. Because the human mind is not your enemy. It is simply a powerful tool. And like any powerful tool, it needs direction. Without direction, it becomes chaotic. With direction, it becomes extraordinary. Most people spend their lives reacting to their thoughts. Every doubt feels real. Every fear feels important. Every negative possibility feels urgent. But intelligent individuals learn a different approach. They begin observing their thoughts instead of obeying them. They understand that a thought is not always a fact. A thought is simply a mental event. It appears, it stays for a moment, and then it disappears. The more you practice this awareness, the less control overthinking has over your life. You begin creating space between yourself and your thoughts. In that space, something powerful happens. Clarity. Instead of being trapped inside endless mental loops, you start seeing situations more clearly. Decisions become easier. Confidence grows stronger, because your mind is no longer filled with constant noise. Another important realization is that peace does not come from solving every possible problem in your head. Peace comes from trusting your ability to handle problems when they actually appear. Life is unpredictable. No amount of thinking can prepare you for every outcome. But confidence grows when you trust yourself to adapt and respond in the moment. This mindset removes the pressure that fuels overthinking. You stop trying to control the entire future. You focus on the present step instead. And the present moment is where real progress happens. When your mind becomes calmer, your creativity increases. Your productivity improves. Your relationships become healthier because you listen more and assume less. And slowly, the mental energy that was once wasted on unnecessary thoughts becomes available for growth. The goal is not to eliminate thinking. Thinking is a gift. It allows us to imagine, create, and solve problems. The goal is to transform thinking into something useful, instead of something exhausting. A peaceful mind is not an empty mind. It is a mind that knows when to think and when to let thoughts pass. Once you develop that skill, life begins to feel lighter. Decisions feel clearer, and opportunities become easier to see. Because instead of being trapped inside your mind, you are finally using your mind as the powerful tool it was meant to be. And when that happens, something remarkable becomes possible. You stop overthinking your life and start living it